It is the second, the sixth of the second. It is the 6th of the second, 2026. The time is 10 minutes past 8 British. And as always, that means one thing, that there are a multitude, no, a plethora of F1-centric threads at which we need to pull. It is Mercedes. Of course, it's rule breaking. It is compression rates. Is it 16 to 1 or is it 18 to 1? Red Bull were backing the case initially, were they not? And now they have U-turned Judas Iscariot settings. They have supermajority. 4 teams now signing this off, saying that you need to change the rules. Fix your fudging car. Per Christian Horner. That's what Toto, the boy who cried wolf, is saying. We'll talk about that. So too, we'll talk about Juan Pablo Montoya insinuating that the advantage that we saw on track from Mercedes at the private test in Barcelona is nothing, only half of what it could be really, that they've got 3 to 4 seconds in hand because they were doing the smart thing and sandbagging. We'll talk about Scuderia Ferrari and their multitudinous problems. So too, we'll deep dive compression ratio because it feels like everything's going to get techie. There's been 2 meetings this week at which teams and FIA bods were talking about potentially changing the rule. Listen, Houston, we have ourselves a problem. They're going to have to move swiftly lest they wish this to become 2000 to 2004 dominance settings. Mercedes, George and Kimi just fighting amongst themselves. But I'm here for it. TWM, Stephen, Easy G, Crow. I'm here for it. And again, we'll go long today because it's the Friday show and F1 is nothing if not a conversation. It has to be discussed. You know what? I got a bit of feedback earlier on in the week. Said, Cameron, why are you so overly verbose? Why use 10,000 words when you can use one, Cameron? And to that, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, listen, we've been back and forth, haven't we? It's been a hard couple of weeks, do you know what I mean? Various different content creators saying various different things, and it's taken its toll. I mean, that's why I had to take a break, do you know what I mean? 24, 48 hours, take a rest, relax myself, take a vista, come away from the wood to see the F1 trees. And you know what? It's brought me to my senses. I bring myself, therefore, to the F1 pulpit of truth. And I want to say, genuinely, honestly and earnestly from the bottom of my heart, I want to take this time to apologise to absolutely no one. Take 2 seats. What are you talking about? We plough our own furrow on this channel, doing things that nobody else would dare to do. No way, Jason. Not now, not ever. How very dare they? Let me tell you about this then. In fact, I'm going to put up some screenshots and for the squeamish amongst you, close your eyes. Let's talk about Lando in the first instance. Champion, the incumbent. Again, the challenge for Lando Norris was, can he get it over the hill? Can he nail the starts? Can he be clutch in the clutchiest of moments? Not like the very good ones, like the great ones. Can he deliver last year on his not insubstantial potential? Because of course he's a rapid peddler, one of the fastest currently on the grid. It was never about his potential. It was never about whether he can do it. It was about execution, and he got over the line just barely. 2 points down the road from a Maximilian Verstappen in an ostensibly slower car. Here's why that's important. Crowing, you're a legend. Get yourself over to the Discord. Here's why that's important. How about you play it again, Sam? Is Lando going to be a one and done type Donny? A Damon Hill or a Keke Rosberg in 96 and 1982 respectively? Or is he going to come with a renewed hunger to deliver in what this time some say may not be the fastest car? That's a different level of fight you'll need, Lando. You're gonna have to drag the MCL 4.0 potentially to the mountaintop of victory, kicking and screaming despite its multitudinous foibles. Evelyn, when you're a legend. Let me tell you what Lando said though. He said a couple of different things before this. You'll recall the discerning eyed amongst you that George Russell last year said, listen, Lando, you know you're the betting favourite now, right? How are you going to manage for that? Chap, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, all under the aegis of banter. This time it's Lando looking at George saying, George, It's a lot of pressure to bear, mate. You know that you're the favourite, but I think George is built different, and herein lies the problem for Lando. I don't think he knows who he's talking to. Now, is George Maximilian Verstappen? Probably not yet. But does he have the ability to deliver at that lick? So metronomic, potentially, some say. Now, to the rules and regs change, you'll be aware, brand new rules, brand new regs, 50-50 ice, 50% electric. So too, you've got the active aero, overtake mode, straight line mode, partial mode as far as the rain. Therefore, it is going to get techier than techie things for not just the teams, but the drivers. And to that point, Lando Norris says the following: you're going to see more chaos during races. There's more emphasis on drivers' ability to control all of these things, energy management, the managerial championship. You remember George told us you'll see more yo-yoing, more moves with extra speed, but then that person might have to defend more than what you've seen in the past, and that will create more chaos. Bring it on, Lando Norris. Do you know what I mean? If we're placing more emphasis on the drivers, their ability to be cerebral in the car and leverage for some excess bandwidth, some CPU power, then I'm here for it, chat. Make the cars difficult to drive. I'm sick and tired of snowflake F1, all facets of it, on the track, off the track, with the fans and their noddy opinions. No, I want to see proper racing. Do you know what I mean? Does that look like active aero? Probably not. It looks more like V10s and sounds more like V10s, but I'll deal with this for now if the cars are difficult to drive. Oh, and by the way, as far as Oscar Piastri and Papaya, the now fabled, notorious Papaya rules, Oscar Piastri, when asked, is it Papaya rules as was in 2025, says, well, no, not quite. It will be similar, but not the same, that we've had a conversation and that things will be changing going into 2026. And I'm here for it, Oscar Piastri. Go in there and get what's yours, son. You can't fall at the same hurdle as your own manager, Mark Webber, did. What's the point in that? You know what I mean? You've got to learn from his mistakes, own that team. Do you know what I mean? Build it around you, Oscar Jack Piastri, lest you wish to have to leave. Red Bull, can you say? Potentially, again, still a rumour. Oh, and by the way, here's where you guys, if you're squeamish, you might need to close your eyes, because this gets techier than techie things. I don't want to get political. This is an apolitical channel. However, when news is breaking, we have to break it and talk to it. Fellow on the right hand side of your screen, Ahmed Ben Sulayem. Do you recognise that name? Different from Ben Sulayem, head of the FIA, who changed his name. No wonder what wanted to be associated with trash. Interesting that. His brother, though, Ahmed bin Sulayem, apparently is the CEO of the logistical giant DP World that has numerous affiliates, one of which is McLaren sponsor settings, one of which is Cadillac F1 logistical settings, has ties to the Emirati military industrial complex. He apparently has been associated with one, I don't know, he's been in the news a lot. What's his name? Jeffrey something or other? I couldn't possibly remember, but here's what you need to know, and this is all allegedly, of course. And let me preface with this: the fact that you take photos with somebody who was once upon a time a scumbag of the highest order doesn't necessarily mean that you too were involved in the scumbaggery. But you can forgive fans of F1 for thinking that way. I want to state that for the avoidance of doubt, because it's important. This needs to be balanced and objective sometimes. However, Ahmed Ben Sulayem had apparently been advising this Jeffrey fella, whose name eludes me, that he can assist with providing shoes with GPS integration to track minors and clients. This Jeffrey chap responded with thanks for the idea. Oh, the humanity. Are there files of some sort being released into the ether? I couldn't possibly comment. This is techier than techie things. Oh, when we get ourselves a photo of the two key protagonists, the legends, do you know what I mean? Not lacking in moral fibre, interacting together. Now, again, I want to state for the avoidance of doubt, chat, this is important. Taking a picture with a scumbag doesn't necessarily mean that you are a scumbag or that you were even associated in the scumbag activities. However, you can forgive F1 fans all around the world for doing this, for throwing up in their mouth. It's not a good look for F1. That dude is far too close as the brother of the president of the FIA. Let's see what happens next. But listen, this wouldn't be the first time. Do you know what I mean? You remember some chap called Max Mosley back in the day and his exploits. Do you know what I mean? Philanderer. I'll leave you to go and look up what Max Mosley was up to back in the day in his spare time. This is F1, and if there is the oldest truism in F1 history is that F1 history does not repeat, but sometimes it does rhyme. Now, let me tell you about this. This Mercedes thing is getting out of hand massively. I will talk through the race slides. Here's what you know already. That compression ratios are potentially going to be the battleground upon which the championship in 25 of the constructors and drivers variety will be fought. Mercedes apparently have leveraged something a bit tricky, being that the FIA rewrote the rules ever so slightly in October. Previously, they said, you know what, it was 16-1 as far as the maximum compression ratios that the drivers and teams could have their engines at. Now, 18-1, excuse me. Now we're going to make it 16-1. It will be tested under any conditions. They reworded that in October to say that we will test the compression ratios in 2.6 to make sure that they're compliant 16-1 under ambient conditions in the pits, therefore not out on track, because that's difficult logistically. What do you do? Put a sensor in the car? How do you check that it's running at 16-1 when the car's out on track and it is hot and it is difficult logistically as much as anything else? Now this is what we know. There's been loads of chatter about Mercedes leveraging this 18-1, doing like VW did back in the day. Oh, we've got these very clean diesels that are emitting zero. Do you know what I mean? Only when the bloody car's on the dyno and the wheel is straight. But when you get it out on the road and the VW steering wheel is turning, all of the bloody gas and the poisonous ozone things, the carbon, is coming out the bloody foot. Again, this is ingenuity, is it not? Some would say skullduggery and devilment. Mercedes have done a similar thing. 18-1. On track, 16-1 in the pits when it's being tested. Red Bull Ford was said to have done something very similar. Leverage this compression ratio design philosophy loophole to a lesser extent, some said. However, you saw in private testing that they were experiencing reliability issues, weren't they? Isaac Hadjar yeeted it into the barrier. Strike one. Max Verstappen parked out on track very briefly. Talk about the power unit getting too hot. Strike two. There were therefore, per Red Bull insiders, reliability issues all the way through that Red Bull car during testing. Now, some have said that Red Bull were going to do the same thing, but you can't do it if you're not doing it in a way that's reliable. Mercedes bods, who were responsible for the compression ratios, or at the very least who were aware of it, had left the boys and girls from Brackley and Brixworth to join the Bulls that are red. So they were hopeful that they were going to be able to weaponise it. No dice, however, they have failed to institute for this compression ratio trick in a way that's reliable. And that means a couple different things from a political perspective. What do you think Red Bull Ford are going to do? Do you know what I mean? If you're looking for a super majority and you have Audi and Scuderia Ferrari writing letters protesting this Mercedes design loophole, what do you think Red Bull Ford are going to do now that they can't do it? Of course, they're going to jump on the bandwagon. I swear, this is so techie and so controversial, all the while being so very quintessentially F1, lest we forget the double diffuser in 2009, X-Wing DAS. It is always at Fuel Flowgate 2019-17. It is always Ferrari, and I'm here for I listen, way to get me excited going into 2026. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Like, there's a couple of different things I want to pull out here as far as compression ratio threads, punctuated by the PowerPoints by dint of the guys and girls over at the race. It has emerged, the race say, that two of the trio who previously wrote a joint letter to the FIA, Ferrari, Audi and Honda, all of the bods, by the way, who have failed to weaponise for this compression ratio design philosophy loophole, have now potentially won over the support of Red Bull too. I wonder why that might be. Perhaps because they can't leverage this thing reliably. Perhaps. This is all conjecture and speculation. However, in the second instance, this is what you need to know. A sudden U-turn by the FIA in approving a last-minute rule tweak would be a surprise and could potentially have a huge impact on the competitive picture. Here's what you need to know, chat. Mercedes don't just provide power units to themselves, lest we forget. Alpine, mention no names, McLaren, so too Williams. So you mean to tell me you're going to try and change less than 40 days till Australia, round 1, 2026? And you mean to tell me you're going to change the rules and the way that you test for these compression ratios between now and then, giving Mercedes less than 40 days to turn around a homologated power unit that they provide to 3 other teams? What are we doing here? This is insane. Or because you wrote in a couple of extra words in the rules and regulate. I tell you what, this is insane. Beggars belief. You couldn't write it, for nobody could suspend their disbelief that much. They simply wouldn't believe. And now we are at loggerheads because you think Toto Wolff's going to have that. I will see you in court, he's saying. He's about to do exactly what he should have done with Lewis in 2021. Do you know what I mean? Take it to the upper echelons, the highest legal houses. Here's what else you need to know. The fact that 4 manufacturers could be aligned, four being, of course, the BODs, as aforementioned, Red Bull, it is Cadillac, it is Scuderia Ferrari, and it is one other who I forget. Audi, of course. The fact that 4 manufacturers could be aligned opens the door for supermajority vote that would be needed to make an immediate rule change. Oh, the humanity. What the race don't say, however, is there are additional 2 rubber stamps needed, the FIA and the FOM. I think Mercedes and Toto, the boy who cried wolf, might have managed the stakehold of those 2 factions really well. He's the one that said at each and every single juncture of us developing this rocket ship, allegedly, that is the W17, compression ratios and all, FIA have been rubber stamping it. We've told them that we plan to do this, and they said good to go, that it's within regulation. Therefore, Toto, the boy who cried wolf, is saying, you lot need to go and fix your fudging stop looking at us. It's not our fault that you didn't weaponize this design philosophy loophole. Don't blame me for your own ineptitudes. This is excuses. Toto, the boy who cried wolf, is saying, here's what else you need to know as far as this thing's concerned. The FIA, however, even if they agree on a plan, any chance they have of a new regulation being instituted, pushed through so quickly, would still require support from both the FIA and the FOM, the commercial rights holders, something that is far from guaranteed. Now, here's what you also need to know for context. The FIA and FOM very rarely vote against one another. Those are 2 votes. Whichever way they decide to change the rules or they will both vote the same. Listen, Jason, it is a bit techie, isn't it? Here's what else you need to know. The aim of Mercedes competition is to agree amongst themselves, a new procedure to measure the compression ratios when engines are running hot. Rewrite the bloody rules then. Who wrote this additional clause in the bloody... you beggars belief. F1 B's F1ing right. Never ceases, never can get out of its own way, seizing defeat always from the regulatory jaws of victory. Can you say regulatory capture? And I think that's what's happened here. I think Toto has the FIA in his pocket. I think they owe him a favour. You know what I mean? And I think that's why he was... I think he's been... I think they've already rubber stamped it. Will they U-turn though? That's the big question. The aim of Mercedes competition is to agree amongst themselves a new procedure to measure the compression ratio when engines are running hot. Their plan would be then to put forward this new idea for a vote so it can be introduced at Melbourne. What the fudge? Josh, you're a legend, chap. Get yourself over to the Discord. I appreciate you ad infinitum. You're telling me 40 days time we're going to be in Australia and you will have amended for the rule. Supposing the Mercedes power unit does run hot. Supposing you test it in the pits in all of the aforementioned cars, being McLaren, Mercedes, Williams and Alpine, and it's 18-1. What are you going to do then? What, just sack off 8 cars? Yeah, can you say Indianapolis 2002 or something? What are we doing here? It makes no sense. Or because somebody decided it was a good idea to amend the rules and regs as of October around this compression ratio. Before you just said, listen, under every circumstance possible, the compression ratios need to not infringe on 18 or 17 to 1, maximum 16 to 1. Is that so difficult? Again, this is the problem with the FI. We've been screaming out for them, imploring them to rewrite the rules because they read as if a 5-year-old has written them. There are no terms and conditions in there. What define an apex? What are you talking about? Into a corner, who is the defender? Who is the attacker? Ensure that any Joe Blogs F1 bod, new or old, purist or casual, can pick up the rules and understand it. It will never be as simple as did the ball go over the line? Did he have a foot ahead of the last defender? Well, then that's offside. It's not as binary as that, but that only puts a spotlight on how important it is for these rules to be written in a way that's clear. You don't need to pay a gazillion pounds for somebody to do it. Any litigator worth their metal will write the rules in a way that's easily upholdable. You know what I mean? Less than 30 days. I thought it was less than 40 ad weight. Surely all they need to do is put a limiter on the Mercedes engine. I don't know, Steve. This is all far too technical. Techier than techie things for your boy Cameron CC. As noddy as my very small F1 brain is. I'm not a Mercedes fan, but the FIA need to take the loss and let Toto's team cook. I hear you, Daniel. Listen, every time I wake up, I come at this from a different perspective. I'll be honest with you. On one hand, I desperately want to see racing, do you know what I mean? And I'm willing for them to do anything to have a couple teams in the fight, whether that means that they need to level the competitive landscape at race 6, do you know what I mean? When you get ADO, additional development and upgrade opportunities, or whether they do something immediately if the problem is you have this conversation underneath the following aegis head. So Reyes, Retro Man, the extent of the dominance of the Mercedes car is something that I don't think we've factored in. Pablo Montoya talks to that in a second. Listen, here's what Pablo said. I'm gonna read it out to you. It's important. In fact, let's talk about what Toto said. Toto said, you know what, I'll see you in court, FIA. You've told us that this is legal, mate, that it ticks all of the boxes, that you're going to test the compression ratios at ambiance temperatures in the pits. If you go away and change your minds now, that would be disingenuous. We'll see you in court, mate. Just like my wife did. Do you know what I mean? Conflict of interest settings. What are you talking about? Toto Wolff finally growing some teeth, and I don't hate it. Here's what he said. It's very clear what the regulations say, and therefore we have built our power unit within aforementioned regulation and parameter. So just get your ish together. And he didn't say ish. Course talking to the other teams, the other power unit manufacturers, and I do not hate this. He's right for once, this Toto fella. Do you know what I mean? It's not my fault that you didn't read the rules, that I've got a bit of Ross Brawn and double diffuser in me, that this is tax avoidance design philosophy and you guys don't cut it or saw it and decided not to. That's not my fault. You can't blame me. You can't go and amend the rules retrospectively, like 30, 40 days away from our first race. What are you talking about? Is this a sport or is this content? And again, this is a conversation that we'll keep having. Let me show you this though, chat. Going into the season 2026, this is what's important. Look, talk about odds. And again, people say, stop looking at the odds, Cameron. What does that do? It doesn't show you anything. It's just the odds. The odds makers don't know anything. But if you're talking about barometers and benchmarks, this is the best that we've got. These are the experts, and this is how they make a living. Not financial advice, by the way. Here's what the odds have done. So the line on the top of your screen is George Russell. They say that if you run 100 simulations of the Drivers' Championship as of the for the second 2-6, that George Russell will now win 31% of the time. That's from a couple of weeks back, 22%. Bookmakers and punters, therefore, like what they see in George Russell. Max Verstappen, for some say soon to be 5-time champion, 19% of the time. Lando Norris was he was third favourite, right? 20% a couple of weeks ago, as soon as December the 4th. Now, however, look at this. I mean, he's neck and neck with Fernando Alonso. Oh, the humanity, who, by the way, is on 9.3 What are we doing here, Jack? This. I'm telling you, this season is absolutely chaos already. Let me show you this actually while we've got it up. It is where we are. And again, I need to. George Russell, 31%, top of your screen, 19%, and he's up 13 percentage points, meaning therefore that a lot of money is coming in for George Russell for the championship of the drivers variety in 2026. Maximilian Verstappen, 12% down. Oh, the humanity. Very tempting, eh? If you understand who Max is and assume that he's going to get himself a car capable of winning a championship in 2.6, then that's not a bad play, eh? Lando Norris down 15 percentage points on 11% at the time, and Fernando Alonso 10% up 5 percentage points. I'm telling you, it's techie. Listen, I need to dive deeper into this Mercedes thing though, because it's not going away. There are additional strands at which we need to port. You heard me say earlier that the conversation we have is under the aegis, a difference in extents and not kinds. Juan Pablo Montoya, who is an insider, got his son currently racing in feeder formula, being the beneficiary of some very sexy overpowered engines, had this to say when asked about the Mercedes, that he thinks that they were sandbagging in Barcelona, that his sources say that they've got an extra 2 or 3 seconds in hand. Oh, the humanity. And why wouldn't they? If that were true, if they were as dominant, I mean, some have said 20 brake horsepower is how much that compression ratio trick will be worth. Some say that they've got an extra 2 to 3 seconds in hand. F1 Oversteer writes, Oscar Piastri's pole time. Here's the thing. I'll intro it properly. When Pablo Montoya reveals the extent of Mercedes sandbagging, oh, the humanity. You cannot write it. This is pant-wettingly salacious. Juan Pablo Montoya, former F1 driver and now pundit, has heard, in inverted commas, that Mercedes haven't even come close to pushing flat out in their W17. And you know, when you read this article, it would make sense. If you are Toto and you know that you have advantage in your back pocket, well, why not keep it there? You wouldn't turn up the engines to 12 and show everybody the extent of your durable competitive advantage hand, would you? It doesn't make sense. Agency theory. Here's what Montoya says. I'll give you an idea, Montoya told AS Colombia. The times they were doing in Barcelona, from what I've heard, are between 3 and 4 seconds away from the car's full potential. Oh, the humanity. Just full stop, new paragraph. You know what I mean? Let's send me off into hibernation and wake me up in 12 months' time when we come back and we enjoy 2027 when these other teams have pulled their design philosophy, technical and aerodynamic fingers out of their ASS. To put that in perspective, Montoya continues, when we're talking about the car, that's far behind being 0.2 of a second off the pace. Then we go to Barcelona, you'll see that the pole position will be around 1:12 and they're doing 1 minute 16, sandbagging central, but they won't be the first team to have sandbagged. You know what I mean? Red Bull were doing this all the while at the pinnacle of their powers. Lest we forget, I want to say 22 and Spa. You remember when they set the car up incorrectly and were going through Eau Rouge with 60% power? You remember Break F1's video when he speaks to this more succinctly than I ever could. Someone will get it right. 3 seconds, chat. Is that what we're doing here? Reyes. It certainly looks like George is the rightful fate. Look, is George the best driver on the grid? I mean, you couldn't argue that with a straight face. But in a fast car, mentioned no name, Singapore last year, is he capable of nailing a pole and 24 races back to back to back? And putting his foot on the rhetorical neck of his formerly rookie teammate Kimi Antonelli. Listen, I think it's going to get techie. Let me tell you this as well before we bookend with some compression ratio nonsense. Again, I want to get into the nitty gritty of this. This is important. But in the first instance, I want to tell you what the Italian media are saying now about Ferrari. Lest we forget, for the past couple of weeks, since Lewis put it on pole temporarily, topping the timesheets in the final session, the most favourable of conditions at the private test in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago. It has been full charge, full send on Scuderia Ferrari propaganda. This is going to be our year. Got the best driver pairing. Lewis is back. He's wanting to get rid of those ground effect cars that don't suit his last of the late breaker style for the longest time. Now Charles is in his prime. He looks happy in these PR photos. You've seen them advertising the Ray-Bans. Lewis at the Ferrari track. Now he's got his mojo back. He's now dating Kimi Kardashian. Freudian slip. How could things go wrong? Well, now we're hearing per Formula.it that some of the Ferrari guys and girls, the engineers, aren't too happy by what they saw at Barcelona, concerned by the energy management data that came out of Hamilton and Leclerc's laps. Oh, the humanity. I don't listen. There are a couple of things that are true in life, death, taxes, and Ferrari seizing defeat from the jaws of victory. This article continues. Energy management was not the only cause for concern for Maranello, Fiorano at Montmello. Either it is said that rival F1 teams think that the handling of Lewis Hamilton's 2026 Ferrari is a problem after they watched the Briton, in particular through turn 10, and Leclerc pushing in the SF26 on the track. Temperamental settings. You saw Lewis keep spinning out. Lewis, of course, said after testing that he's more pleased with the handling dynamic of these cars. Yeah, they're twitchy and oversteery, but ultimately, he says, as versus the ground effect era cars of 2.5, 2.4, 2.3 and 2.2, that they're easier to catch, and that's important for Lewis. That will engender within him the confidence requisite to push these cars through the high-speed turns. That's what he lacked last year, and some are saying he has it now, but the energy management is a problem and the power deployment is a problem and the twitchiness of the SF26. But again, that was only a B-spec car, right? Do you know what I mean? They'll bring something else, something very different, more evolved to Bahrain in a couple of, well, next week, isn't it? Jeez, it's going to get techier than techier. Let me tell you this as well, chat. I want to get deep into the weeds on this compression ratio fast, because it's a couple different articles have said a couple different things, most notably autoracer.it. They had a couple different things to say. In fact, let me get to you guys, turn this into a conversation very briefly before I delve deeper into the technical minefield that is compression ratios. Again, the battleground upon which the drivers and constructors championship will be fought in 2.6. The drivers only had about 1.5 days. Did they only have what? Oh, they did only have 1.5 days, because it was 3 days total, wasn't it, Frank Races? 1.5 days to drive these new vehicles. I'm expecting a flag show at the opening race. I don't hate it. It will be techie. Bin Ahmed says hurt. So do you know what I mean? If you show me somebody's friends and I'll show you somebody's character. My sources say, what a load of SH1T. Nobody knows. Neither McLaren or Red Bull turned their engines up. Lindsay, are you like the fun police? What is it with F1 fans? But they're allergic almost to fun. Some F1 barbershop talk, Lindsay. Like, whatever happened to that? Can we not speculate and theorise? I've had so many comments over the past couple of weeks. Oh, Cameron, it's all rumour and speculation. Wait until you get the yellow row on BBC, and then you can break some. Yeah, that's fun, isn't it? No, I want to talk about who I think's going to win. This is a conversation, Lindsay. It can't just. I can't be the straight-laced F1 media, all straight of back, buttoned up white collar shirt. That I just think it's 2026, isn't it? Surely we can allow ourselves to have a little bit of fun with it. You let me know who you think's going to win. Is it right to have George Russell as a favourite, or are they disrespecting Max Verstappen given what he's done over the past couple of years? You guys told me. I'm not so sure. I can't read it. I genuinely can't read it at this juncture. It is techie than techie things. Lewis can be a positive anomaly. I'm hoping, says TWM, that Ferrari does to Lewis what Red Bull has been doing to Max. TWM, it's Friday and I don't want to get too net. I can't. I'm concerned. Listen, there's no. Peter Windsor, friend of the channel, said it best, right? I know Lindsay. I was just indulging you. I'm leveraging some scorched earth because you're not the first person that said something similar. It's all like we are thieves of joy in F1 far too often. Other sports love to speculate and have like sports debates and talk about who's the GOAT openly and honestly, because that's Like the joy is in the journey, not the destination, right? Soon we'll find out for sure which one of these teams is the quickest car. But then you'll know. Uncertainty is not very fun. I don't think rumours are speculation of what the sport is about. That's 100% Mr. Hoppy. Cam, don't forget about the fiduciary malfeasance. Yeah, let's go. Fiduciary malfeasance and promotional malpractice at the hands, of course, of the FIA. Of course, we're talking about Mohammed Ben Sulayem and the commercial rights holder, respectively. I'm telling you, Cam, don't read into anything yet. It's hard. No, none of this is definitive, Ollie. None of this is definitive, but you'll forgive me. I find it fascinating. Go on, then let me finish off on compression ratios, because your boy's got notes and I'm going to use them. Here's what Mercedes are threatened to do. They said, you know what, change the rules at the last minute with T minus 40 days until we get ourselves some Australian Grand Prix action, and we will see you in court. You can't do that. Sadly for Toto, it's a sport and the FIA can do whatever the fudge it wants so long as they get super majority. And 4 of the 5 power unit providers and manufacturers sign the effing letter. I'm telling you, and they are going to sign it. Why would they not? Audi are keen. Jonathan Wheatley's been saying for the longest time, and Mattia Bonotto, that we saw that loophole, but we decided at the altar of sports etiquette that we wouldn't exploit it. Pull the other one, Jonathan Wheatley. Have you ever known Jonathan Wheatley in the time that he's been an F1 bod to see advantage and not take it? 2021 Abu Dhabi, turning around his cap and getting right up in the face of Michael Massey to the tune of a championship that ultimately saved the bacon of his team principal. Jonathan Wheatley, sports etiquette. I don't think you can put those two terms in the same sentence and not cry juxtaposition and contradiction in terms. Here's what you need to know, though. There's been 2 articles written in addition to the God Tier 1. I want to say John Noble over at the race. But Auto Racer, I want to say they broke the news in conjunction with AMUS. Slightly different takes, but important to talk to both of them nonetheless. Here's what they say. Now, hitherto, it's always the compression ratio trick. Everybody always thought it was material expansion, that something about the heat of being on track would turn 16-1 compression ratios into 18-1. However, AMUS say that the material expansion is only part of the solution. How Mercedes are managing to do this in a way that is reliable. The big question, says this article, is how exactly the trick works. Many reports simply explain it by saying that the individual components expand differently under heat. We asked an expert with many years of F1 experience and good connections to several teams about this. According to the engineer, materials with different coefficients of expansion can only be part of the explanation. This article continues. The connecting rods are key to the interplay of the components to increase compression. They're reportedly made of authentic steel, whatever that means. This stainless steel is characterized by a low carbon content and a high chromium and nickel content, resulting in a relatively high coefficient of thermal expansion. For the engine block, however, a different alloy would have to be chosen, one that expands less. The cylinder volume would thus decrease under heat, increasing the compression accordingly. Oh, the humanity. All far too complicated that for me to understand and or comprehend. This article bookends by saying special pistons will also be used by Mercedes, allegedly, whose expansion properties can be tailored through 3D printing. However, most experts agree that this rather obvious solution alone won't achieve the compression ratio of 18-1. Theoretically, it would only achieve the value of 17-1 or slightly better. This means that Mercedes would need to utilize another trick. It's techie, this, and I haven't got the bloody P's, have I? They're doing something really dodgy. Honestly, it's bonkers, this thing. Dodgy, and potentially has gotten Mercedes in some very difficult logistical waters, having to redesign their power unit, potentially with 40 days to go. Well, not redesign it, but amend it at the very least. It is techie than techie things. Go on then. Here's what the guys and girls over at Auto Racer say. They say that Red Bull have seen what's coming down the pipe, which is a good ass whipping from Mercedes, and have decided to turn coat. They're going to sign this letter of protest. FIA, change your fudging rules. Toto might say all he wants to say about how our engine, our power unit is in line with the regulations. But again, if it's a super majority, if you've got 4 manufacturers of power units saying that you need to change the rules at the altar of leveling the competitive landscape, then this is where it's going to get techie. Here's what the auto racer guys and girls write. It's highly unlikely that this could be achieved, that this compression ratio of 18:1 could be achieved through thermal expansion materials alone. That they're doing something else that's a bit techie that nobody really understands. Listen, I think it's fascinating, chap. Honestly, genuinely, I think it's incredible. I think Mercedes is to be commended. That this is if F1 wants to be the bastions at the forefront of all things positive in the automotive industry, then what else would you want from them but to uncover these loopholes in the rules? Surely, chat. This is F1, is it not? Go on. This is important. I'm going to try and read this out to you about the special pistons. Go on then. So we talked about the special pistons and the 3D in recent weeks, rumours, blah, blah, blah. That was apparently the theory. It's also unclear Red Bull can't do it. Bang, bang, bang. There's another article that I wanted. There's another piece to the article that I'll read out tomorrow that gets techier. Then techie things. You guys have been legends, one and all. I appreciate each and every single one of you to the moon and back. And we are back again, just like Hack. And what makes more financial sense, making one manufacturer change their engines or making the other 4 change theirs? I don't think the FIA are invested in financials, not others' financial sense. Do you know what I mean? I think what makes more financial sense is having a competitive season and instituting whatever you need to do to bring that to bear. That's what I think we're looking at. Someone please look into the Ferrari veto. The Ferrari veto is the Ferrari. Because, yeah, fair. I think they used to have that. That's why people used to call them Ferrari International Assistants, right? When you refer to the pseudonym that is the FIA, 2000 to 2004. Do you know what I mean? They would always get their way with Scuderia Ferrari. I need cars on track now. Easy G. Not long to wait. Bring on 26, says Jason. Not long to wait, and I'm here for it. Let me know in chat who you've got as the champion. I'm going to put out a poll because I think it gets more and more interesting by the second. A lot of people for Alonso. Let me bookend the soliloquy of the F1 variety by saying this. A lot of people, Spanish and Alonso fans, Spanish and non-Spanish Alonso fans alike. A lot of people are calling for Alonso a 2026 championship, and here's why that's techie. Because for the longest time, Colt RH, one of which is Mama Cameron, have been saying, why does everyone talk about Lewis being over the hill? He's only 41 and Alonso is 471. Do you know what I mean? Like, why aren't we talking about Alonso for Pete's sake and his lack of performance for the past few years? When I say few, I'm talking as near as makes no difference. 20 years now, that dude hasn't won anything. And here's where it gets techie, because Alonso in that Adrian Newey car that looks like an aerodynamic behemoth, a monster, it could get techie. If Honda provide him and them with the engine, I think Alonso is gonna go full Jacari settings. George Russell, no doubt, is fully ready. I don't hate it, Nico. Alonso is not winning a single race, says Nando. Go on then, Nando. Put a pin in that and we'll revisit. If Honda rock up with an engine, with a power unit that is not underweight and not overweight, and not underpowered, you don't think Alonso is well capable of more than a few races? I remember for now, Tedo, just like that. I mean, Lewis will win a couple of races when he's had his Weetabix. Do you know what I mean? If he can keep himself away from Kim, sometimes Lewis can definitely still win races. Hard disagree. Wow, people aren't feeling. Go on then. Let's put a pin in this. Let's have a look at what Fernando Alonso did. If he gets the car, let's see where he goes. What makes me know about Fernando and his desire and ability to drive a car, to leverage and weaponize his automotive devilment and pugilism. He's a couple of years back at Brazil when Checo Perez had an ostensibly quicker Red Bull in his hands. and still couldn't get it over the line in front of Alonso. Listen, he's not a bad just as Lewis Hamilton. You don't become a bad peddler overnight, and I don't think Fernando El Plan Alonso has become one. It's going to get techier than techier thing. You guys have been legends. Back to the usual schedule from tomorrow. Do me a favour, smash the like. If you're not subscribed already, what are you doing with your life between now and then? The prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.